This book was written over 2,300 years ago. It survived down the generations because of the influence it had in China. It's written by one of their greatest thinkers, called Zhuangzi. If you struggle with criticizing yourself, judging others, worrying about death, or being in a job that you don't like, you're not alone. The ancient Chinese did too, and this book touches on many of those themes, but not in the way that you would expect. It's a series of stories set in an ancient mystical world where talking trees and benevolent bandits help free you from society's damaging constraints, thereby revealing a natural spontaneity and joy that was within you all along. Sounds great, but can a bunch of ancient Chinese stories help us find freedom in our modern, complex lives? Well, let's find out. Today we're joined by Professor Edward Slingerland, leading expert on ancient Chinese philosophy, Master Gu, Taoist master from China, and the art from C.C. Tsai. Join us as we explore Zhuangzi's philosophy of freedom. It's a lovely winter's morning. I thought we could go on a walk and try and understand Zhuangzi a bit better. So Zhuangzi, literally Master Zhuang, was thought to live around 300 BC, but we don't know much about his life beyond the book that we have, known by his name. It's thought that he wrote the first 7 chapters. We're not 100%, it's hard to trace historical records back that far. But for ease, let's call the author of this fascinating book Zhuangzi. So in this video, we're going to explore some of these stories and see whether they hold any lessons for our lives today. Then later on, we're going to head over to China to hear a tip that you can use to unlock Zhuangzi's wisdom. But before we get to the stories, it would be good to understand a bit more about this world back in ancient China. What were the sort of problems people faced, and are they similar to the challenges that we have today? For over 200 years, ancient China descended into turmoil as various kings fought bloody battles to become emperor. There was a desperate need for order, and this need drove a golden age in philosophy, with legendary thinkers theorizing the best way to return order to the land and peace to people's hearts.
One of the big schools was that we can loosely call Confucianism, believed that the answer to this confusion and chaos and fighting was for people to accept this traditional culture that came down from the Western Zhou dynasty. Various ritual practices, down to the way you dress and the way you sat and the way you spoke.
If you wanted to become a good, successful Confucian, then you had precise instructions. And while we don't have their rituals, we do have quite a similar setup in our society where there's a clear image of success that most of us strive towards. That person probably has a lot of money, a big house, happily married, kids with perfect teeth, they go on holiday in the Bahamas and have the new iPhone. The problem, of course, is that you can have all of these things, the supposed perfect life, and still suffer from crippling meaninglessness. And that's what Zhuangzi found. He found despite wearing the correct hat, the Confucian gentlemen around him were not any less unhappy than anyone else.
It seems to describe people who are on this treadmill where they're constantly pursuing more stuff because they have a rigid idea of what success involves. And in fact, they're making themselves miserable. So they are wearing their bodies out, they're wearing their spirits out. So he thinks that the problem with us is that we're trapped in this conventional human world. That's crippling to us. It suffocates us.
Zhuangzi attempts to free us story by story. Right, let's hear one. The art you're about to see comes from this book by C.C. Tsai. His illustrated retelling of the Zhuangzi is iconic in the East and has recently been translated into English. This story you're about to hear is about our relationship to death. Zhuangzi's wife died. When Huizi went to convey his condolences, he found Zhuangzi sitting with his legs sprawled out, pounding on a tub and singing. All these years your wife takes care of the house and kids, then she gets old and dies, and not only do you not cry, but you drum and sing. That's outrageous, Zhuangzi. No, Huizi, you're wrong. When she first died, do you not think I didn't grieve like anyone else? But I look back to her beginning, in the time before she was born, the time before she had a body, the time before she had a spirit. In the midst of the jumble of wonder and mystery, a change took place, and she had a spirit. Another change, a body. Another change, and she was born. Now there's been another change, and my wife has passed away. It's as natural as the passing of the 4 seasons. If I were to follow after her, bawling and sobbing, it would show that I don't understand anything about fate. So I stopped. That story inspired a whole tradition of folk music in central China called funeral drumming. It's quite a different approach to death than most of us have. We learn from our culture and from our parents' anxieties about illness and the way they act at funerals that death is this terrible thing to be afraid of. But Zhuangzi, in his shocking way, is pointing to the fact that death is a natural transformation. We don't cry about the billions and billions and billions of years that we weren't around before we were born. So why be so attached to all the years after we're gone? Nietzsche asked Wang Ni, "What are the standards of right and wrong?" "How would I know that?" said Wang Ni. "Do you know that you don't know it?" "How would I know that?" "If a man sleeps in a damp place, he is likely to get arthritis. But is this true of the mudfish? If he lives in a tall tree, he is terrified and shakes with fright. But is this true of a monkey? Of these 3 creatures then, which one knows the proper place to live? Men claim that Lady Li was beautiful, but if fish saw her, it might very well swim away in disgust. Which creatures has the right standard of beauty for the world? The way I see it, the rules of benevolence and righteousness and the paths of right and wrong are all hopelessly snarled and jumbled. How could I know anything about such discriminations? If you're harsh to yourself or have regretted judging someone too quickly, it's not just you. Zhuangzi's talking about judgments 2,300 years ago. Why are we judgmental? Well, one of the great things about Professor Slingerland's work is that he explores the neuroscience and psychology of ancient wisdom. So, Professor, why is it that humans seem so quick to judge?
One of the functions of the mind is to cut up the world into clear categories, in his view. That's what the mind's for, in a way. And so the mind chunks up the world into categories and puts labels on them. And then we're supposed to use those categories to navigate our behavior in the world. And he thinks the problem with that is, again, that the world is too complex. Things are constantly transforming into other things. We can't navigate the world using fixed categories.
Have you ever had the experience where you go to visit a friend's newborn baby for the first time? You see it and you feel awful because you had the thought, my friend has given birth to an alien. See, that's the labelling that Professor Slingerland's talking about kicking in. I judge this baby as ugly. But then the baby wakes up and it begins to laugh, you hold it and you think, wow, what a beautiful miracle of nature this baby is. See how easily ugly transforms into beauty. That's because in Zhuangzi's words, there are no standards of right and wrong, the transitory concepts of the human mind. And yet these words continue to give us pain. I guess I'm not the only one that feels down sometimes for not being good enough. But what are the standards of good enough? And if we can see a baby as a miracle, then that means by extension, we are too. Zhuangzi says that we come from the jumble of wonder and mystery. 2,300 years later, we still don't know why or how we're conscious. Your very existence is a baffling miracle. So if you see yourself in the right way, which is a walking, talking, thinking miracle of nature, then suddenly the idea that you could not be good enough or beautiful enough is just completely irrelevant. Recognize the limits of these words and find that you're slower to judge yourself, others, and the events in your life. Conventional ideas of right and wrong are under attack. Zhuangzi also takes aim at success. What does it mean for you to be successful? Finding food isn't easy for the wild pheasant, travelling 10 steps before getting a single worm. Even though it has to walk 100 paces for a drink of water, it still prefers this to being locked up in a cage. A caged pheasant may have enough to eat and drink, and its feathers may be bright and shiny, but it will always crave the freedom of being on the outside. Talented people have so much work to do. Intelligent people have so much to worry about. Incompetent people go about oh so happily, seeking nothing and satisfied with just a full belly. Like an unmoored boat drifting on the water, rocking gently back and forth, carefree and at ease. If my YouTube recommendations are anything to go by, increasingly people understand that earning more to consuming more isn't the only way to get rich. The other way is to cultivate a quality of life that doesn't need as many material things. So you still feel rich because all your desires are met, but you're not trapped in the working world. And Zhuangzi is talking about exactly this. He gives us a helpful ancient metaphor, the caged pheasant. Next time you're considering a purchase or a new job, think, am I choosing comfort over freedom? But perhaps what is more challenging is Zhuangzi's attack on learning. I guess since you're still watching this video, like me, you enjoy learning. But Zhuangzi here is saying that, like desires for comfort, desires for intellectual achievement can also be damaging, because it makes you live out of balance where reading books is prioritized over ever actually meeting anyone. Why is it that following desires can be so damaging then? Well, it's partly because we never get there.
The problem with us is that we habituate. It's the same feature of why if you live near the train tracks, you eventually stop hearing the trains, right? So our sensory systems are designed to filter out the stuff we already know and to focus on new things. The problem with this is we habituate to pleasures too. Have you ever been on a long hiking, camping trip and you get home and you take a hot shower for the first time and you put on clean clothes for the first time and you sit in a comfortable chair for the first time and you're like, this is awesome. This is like the best thing that's ever happened to me. But within a couple of days, it's just like that's what you do. You sit in a comfortable chair, you're clean, you're used to it. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as the hedonic treadmill, that once you acquire something that you desired, you then desire something new.
This isn't to say you should never do anything or learn anything ever again. Zhuangzi himself was an intellectual, and lots of his stories feature skilled artisans. But he's trying to get us to pay attention to and be grateful for what we have now. And if we do want to learn and grow, let us do it not for flawed ideas of success, but instead for the love of the activity itself. Oh, it's cold. Probably should have put some more layers on, but thankfully I have some green tea from China. It's better. So I hope you're feeling some of your constraints beginning to loosen. For Zhuangzi, the person who frees themselves from the conventional views of judgment cannot be made to suffer, because they refuse to see poverty as any less good than affluence. Natural ills such as death are no longer seen as ills, instead as part of the natural course of life. You stay within society, but you refrain from following the egotistical desires that so often trap the common man. To fully embody Zhuangzi's philosophy is to develop a well-being that transcends the external world, with our future looking increasingly uncertain. That's a resilience that all of us can aspire to. But it's more than that, because in the same way that these green tea leaves come to life when they return to their natural hydrated form and give me this beautiful tea to drink, in the same way when we shed all the baggage that society and we put on ourselves, we bring something new into the world, a natural effectiveness.
The metaphor he uses sometimes is making your mind like a mirror. Categories and ideas of right and wrong, these are all things that obscure your mirror. So if you can clear away these categories and these concepts, the world as it really is will reveal itself to you. And then you'll be able to move through the world in a skillful way.
The ancient Chinese long debated how to cultivate their subconscious intelligence. The rest of the animal kingdom can lead complex social and emotional lives without the need for thinking. They instead use the intuitive intelligence of their nervous system. This is an intelligence that we have too, but because we're thinking the whole time, we forget we can be effective without having to plan everything. Use your mind like a mirror is a helpful metaphor that can help us tap into this subconscious intelligence. For example, say you're chatting to a cute girl or guy, the conversation's going well until you start overthinking. Am I saying the right thing? Am I being funny enough? You stress out and freeze up. Now, if you were to use your mind like a mirror, you would turn down that inner monologue and just listen attentively. You would stop seeing the person in front of you as someone to impress and instead just be present in their company. With the pressure off, then the conversation can flow like a normal one does. And how does a conversation with a friend work? You're not planning or worrying what to say next. All you do is listen, they'll say something, and a thought or memory will pop up from your subconscious. You say it, and the conversation flows easily. Your subconscious body intelligence can help you out if you just get out your own way. Use your mind like a mirror, come into the present moment, trust nature's wisdom to help guide you, and find that previously stressful situations become easier. Our Zhuangzi journey is coming to a close, but let's finish on one practical tip that can help you unlock his wisdom.
Hello, George.
How are you doing?
I'm fine. Is it okay we talk like this?
The camera, I don't know if you can get it the other way around. It's currently landscape.
But is it okay like
Okay,
this?
I'll turn my computer and then that should be fine.
I just look at the camera.
Yeah, that's fine. Cool. Well, I'm doing a video on Zhuangzi, and you're a Taoist living in China. I'm interested in understanding what your impression of Zhuangzi is.
If I'm asked to use some words to describe him, I should say playful, and it's very carefree.
Why do you think it's useful for a Taoist to be playful? How does that fit into the wider ideas of Taoism?
Completely speaking, we human beings should be both a social person and a natural person. If you don't forget, you are one part of the nature. If you really have the Taoist thought, you will be natural. If you are natural, you can be playful, like the birds happily chirping on the trees, even on the electric wire.
I love that, the birds playing on the electric wire. Maybe Master Gu's a descendant of Zhuangzi. He's certainly got Zhuangzi's playful streak. And he's playful for a reason, because laughter, even if just for a brief moment, breaks us out of the rationality that normally dominates our lives. Humour and play are important spiritual tools and the fundamental to Zhuangzi's philosophy.
He doesn't want to say there's no right and wrong, and it's wrong to believe in right and wrong, because that would be setting up a right and wrong. So he's constantly saying something and then undermining it. He'll say something and then say, well, is what I just said, does that really say anything, or does it say nothing? He's not going to tell you the right way to live. What he's going to do is show you people living the right way and hope that you will figure out what you need to do to emulate them.
The bridge behind me there is called the Clifton Suspension Bridge. It's very famous in Britain, built by the Victorians, connecting the city of Bristol with the nature that we were just walking in. Master Gu says that we are both social and natural beings, so you can think about Zhuangzi's philosophy as a bridge, something trying to connect these two aspects of ourselves. Zhuangzi's philosophy is a hard one to fully embody, and we've learnt from Edward Slingerland why. Human beings are just a bit judgmental and striving. But being aware of these damaging tendencies, we can remind ourselves of what is more accurate, Zhuangzi's philosophy. That there are no standards of right and wrong and success and failure, so try and let go of these concepts, freeing the rigidity in the social world, creating the space to allow nature's wisdom to come up and guide us. If you're in pain, consider what words are you holding on to. Then bring Zhuangzi's playfulness to mind. Take a breath, try and let it go, and then go drum on something. I'd recommend you read Zhuangzi for yourself because we've only scratched the surface in this video. There's no better place to start than this book, C.C. Tsai's comic retelling of the ancient classic. All the art that you saw in today's video comes from this comic book. It's so good that I've already given away 2 as presents. And at the moment there is an Amazon affiliate link down in the description so you can purchase one for yourself and also support the work that I'm doing. Love this book. Thank you so much to Edward Slingerland. He's such an interesting guy. His book, Trying Not to Try, is a must-read in ancient Chinese philosophy. So there's links to that and more recommendations from me about other books that you can read as well. I hope you enjoyed. As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I hope you have a good day. Goodbye.